The year 2008 witnessed a financial earthquake that shook the global economy to its core. The seemingly unshakable foundations of the financial world crumbled, exposing a web of interconnected risks and reckless lending practices. This was not just a crisis, it was a full-blown meltdown. The world watched in disbelief as financial institutions, once considered too big to fail, teetered on the brink of collapse. This crisis, rooted in the United States housing market, quickly spread its tentacles across the globe, leaving a trail of shattered economies and shattered dreams in its wake. It was a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of the global financial system and the devastating consequences of unchecked greed and systemic risk. The 2008 financial crisis was a watershed moment in economic history, forcing a fundamental reassessment of risk, regulation, and the very nature of modern capitalism. It underscored the importance of transparency, accountability, and a keen understanding of the complex instruments that drive the global financial system. The scars of this crisis run deep, serving as a constant reminder of the fragility of economic stability and the need for vigilance in the face of ever-evolving financial markets. The seeds of the 2008 crisis were sown in the seemingly prosperous years preceding it, fueled by a dangerous concoction of easy credit and an insatiable appetite for risk. At the heart of this toxic brew lay the American housing market, where a speculative bubble was inflating at an alarming rate. Home ownership, a cornerstone of the American dream, was within reach for more people than ever before, thanks in part to readily available mortgages, even for those with poor credit histories. Lenders, flush with cash and eager to capitalize on the booming housing market, loosened their lending standards, offering subprime mortgages with low initial interest rates that would later reset to much higher levels. This easy access to credit created an illusion of wealth and fueled an unprecedented surge in housing demand. Prices skyrocketed as buyers, confident in the ever-rising market, took on increasingly larger mortgages, assuming they could refinance later at more favorable rates. This speculative frenzy created a housing bubble, a dangerous phenomenon where asset prices become detached from their underlying value. As the housing bubble inflated, a parallel market emerged for complex financial instruments known as mortgage-backed securities. These securities were essentially bundles of thousands of individual mortgages, sliced and diced into different tranches based on their risk profiles. Investors, attracted by the potential for high returns, poured money into these MBS, unaware of the ticking time bomb hidden within. Many of the underlying mortgages were subprime, meaning they were issued to borrowers with poor credit histories and a higher likelihood of default. These risky mortgages were like unstable building blocks, and as long as housing prices continued to rise, the entire structure seemed sound. However, the foundation of this house of cards was built on the shaky assumption that housing prices would rise indefinitely. When the bubble inevitably burst, the consequences would be catastrophic. Adding fuel to the fire were derivatives, complex financial instruments that derived their value from an underlying asset, such as a mortgage-backed security. Credit default swaps, a type of derivative, were essentially insurance policies against the default of these MBS. Investment banks sold billions of dollars worth of CDS, betting against the very securities they were creating and selling to investors worldwide. This reckless gambling created a tangled web of interconnected bets where the failure of one institution could trigger a cascade of defaults throughout the system. These derivatives, intended to mitigate risk, ironically amplified it to an unprecedented degree. They obscured the true level of risk in the system, creating a false sense of security that would prove disastrous when the bubble burst. When the financial bubble finally burst, the consequences were catastrophic. Millions of people lost their homes, their jobs, and their life savings. Major financial institutions either collapsed or required massive government bailouts to stay afloat. The global economy was plunged into the Great Recession, the most severe economic downturn since the Great Depression. Governments and regulators worldwide scrambled to understand what went wrong and how to prevent such a disaster from happening again. The Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act was one of the most significant legislative responses, aiming to increase transparency and reduce the risks posed by the financial sector. However, the debate continues over whether these measures are enough. Some argue that the financial industry has returned to its old ways, with new complex instruments and even greater risks. Others believe that increased oversight and regulation have made the system more robust. The 2008 financial crisis serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked greed and the importance of vigilance in the financial markets. It's a lesson that continues to resonate, urging us to scrutinize the systems that hold our economic future in their hands. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more insightful content on financial history and other intriguing topics. Your support helps us bring you more high-quality videos. Thank you for watching.